What's up, y'all? Welcome to the State of Wild, episode 80, a regular YouTube video web series podcast thingy. My name's Meowth, and as usual, I'm joined by my two good friends and co-hosts, Raffle and Corbett. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. I've been actually playing a few sweet decks this week, including a very near. I had to catch myself. I almost did a day 3 legend with one of these decks that we'll be talking about a little bit later tonight. So had a pretty good week, but I realized I don't actually want to queue into a bunch of Pirate Warriors when I hit legend, tank my MMR, and end up queuing into the Diamond 3-1 band exclusively. So I saved myself that by playing a much worse deck and tanking my rank.
Damn, Ruffle. I mean, props. It was the absolute horror of almost hitting legend this early would have been absolutely terrifying.
I know.
I don't know how you did it. Yeah, I don't know how you survived. But yeah, I am also. Look, I was gonna say I'm like doing good, but I'm actually doing pretty crappy. Like straight up, not feeling great today, guys, listeners. But happy to be here and talking all things wild with these two.
Yeah, I think we're all feeling a little bit under the weather tonight when we're recording. So I think what that means is today's going to be a pretty laid-back, short episode, especially since we're kind of in that little bit of a lull between, set expansion and like mini set announcement, because we are getting, I think it has been like 2 months since the expansion originally launched, which means it is about that time where we're looking for mini set, new cards, news, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, I'm getting a little antsy for the announcement as well. You know, I've got some plans I want to make. I need to plan my content schedule around the mini set as well as my life. So, hopefully we'll find something out soon. Plus, just new cards.
What's this life you speak of?
It's the thing that you do when you're not playing Hearthstone.
I don't understand.
Maybe one day you will.
No, true. All right, I can't say that. I didn't get to play much Hearthstone at all this week because of real life and all that kind of stuff. Oh, it was terrible. I wish I could have been playing card games instead. All right, let's hop into the episode this week. But before we get into all that, we do need to take care of our usual housekeeping stuff. So, of course, if you guys enjoy the podcast, whether you guys are watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anything like that, if you guys enjoy the content, like, comment, subscribe. It's a small thing, but it does actually support us a ton.
You can also support the podcast by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/stateofwild and pick up some sweet perks.
And of course, you can always come join at the State of Wild Discord server to come talk about all things Wild Hearthstone with the rest of the State of the Wild community.
All right, so let's hop into it. I guess the first question that I'm going to have to ask, because we ask this every week. It's been a week and a half now since we had that huge balance patch of Apprentice getting nerfed, Odd Hunter getting nerfed, and Warrior getting nerfed. So, just general feels about the meta now that it's actually had some time to settle. Are you guys enjoying the format? I know Warrior Stone down in Diamond 5, but is it a little bit more diverse than it used to be? How are the general feelings?
Yeah, I think what we're almost 2 weeks out from the nerfs. I think we can safely say that the Warrior nerf did not do a whole lot. And in fact, like we discussed last week, it kind of gained 2 good matchups in the process. Fortunately, for whatever reason, I have been dodging a lot of Pirate Warriors, which makes my Hearthstone experience a lot better. It's my enjoyment of the game right now is directly, inversely proportional to the number of Pirate Warriors that I queue into. And so, fortunately, that number was pretty low this week. And I was quite honestly playing a few decks that just had a reasonable matchup into it. So there were times where I was chasing the matchup and I couldn't find it even, which is a little bit less fun. But, overall, the other 2 decks that, did get nerfed and actually got noticeable nerfs were quite frustrating to play against at times too, depending on decks that I was playing. There were just certain decks that I would want to play that maybe had a chance against Pirate Warrior. The deck can scam anything, obviously, that's why it's so good, but just were auto lose to burn strategies like APM Mage and Odd Hunter. So getting to play that type of deck again is kind of fun. So yeah, it's open. I feel a little bit more. I think generally the metagame is better now. with the exception of Pirate Warrior still like existing as it does.
Yeah, it's been very interesting, I think. The big fear that I had coming into this patch was obviously Shaman. I was like really concerned that Shaman was gonna, just swallow up a lot of the the hunter and the mage population, even some of the warrior population. And Shaman was gonna be left with this like very few zero counter situation. That doesn't really like played out. Shaman is popular. Like Shaman is, like one of the more popular classes at Diamond and Legend, and it is very strong, but it's not overwhelmingly so. And I think what's being left overall is a format that, as you said, it does feel much more open, and I think a lot better and more diverse. I'm probably even higher on the format right now, because I think War is actually in a pretty good spot in terms of how much they've touched it. I know, thoughts on that might vary a little bit. But Warrior at Legend right now, like the class is like a sub 52% win rate, so it's still good, but not like it's not in tier 0 territory, right? Like right now the class win rate does seem to be good, but not like insane. Which is fine. Like I don't really find Warrior that offensive personally. And I think there's been a whole bunch of stuff open up, and the format does feel very different without things like Ice Block being particularly prevalent. That's the big thing that I noticed over the past few days is how many strategies I feel like I can play, because there isn't a predominant mage strategy using Ice Block in the format anymore. It does feel nice to have that card kind of disappear. And this is something that you might think about specifically when thinking about all the problems of Ignite Mage and stuff like that until it's gone. So yeah, I'm really interested in the format. It does feel very weird right now, and we'll see if that continues heading into the mini set.
Yeah, I know the thoughts about Pirate Warrior are a very contentious argument out there in the community right now, up there with the conversations about Shaman. And so I know this is something that we can maybe touch on next week if we don't get a mini set announcement about this like balance between popularity and power and perception of unfairness and stuff like that, which is a very important conversation. We touched on it a little bit last week, and I kind of got flamed for my kind of out there comments, but it's all right. I too, like, I think I'm the middle ground of E2 just in general when it comes to experiences in the WoW format, but also like about Pirate Warrior. Like I think Pirate Warrior is still, I think it's egregious with its like the game plan behind the deck. I think just like fundamentally shouldn't exist, but power level it wise, it's not terribly oppressive in my experience. But I do agree with you guys that the format does feel a lot more open. I'm not gonna lie, this is probably the best that I felt about the format since like Baron's mini set, like prior to United and Stormwind, where a lot of people were like super happy with where the format was. It's kind of where I'm at right now. So I haven't been playing much this week, but at least in Legend, it's felt like I've been seeing so many random decks like you mentioned, just you never saw prior to the patch. Like I know NHL fans been killing it with Reno Paladin. I've seen Darkglare Warlocks again. I've seen a resurgence of Cute Locks as well. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that's out there. Whether you like playing against it or not, like I think diversity, I keep harping on it, right? Diversity is a good thing, and I've seen a hell of a lot more wide range of decks in Legend at least. So honestly, pretty low-hanging fruit with that balance patch because there were 3 dominant decks, but I think they nailed it with 2 out of the 3 changes, and even the Warrior tune down did help a lot.
Yeah, I think something that is helping a lot is that people aren't gravitating as heavily towards the best decks that I thought they would. Like I thought, I think Mechathon Warlock, for example, right, is this insanely powerful deck. Like it's my pick for the best deck in the format right now. People just aren't really playing it. Like I think it's reasonably popular, but it's not like the same kind of level of popularity that we saw before with things like Old Hunter and stuff. In fact, like Priest right now is the most popular class at Legend. And I think like the VS report had a huge impact in that, and how much they pushed the inner fire strategies, and just how popular those have been since the patch came out. So yeah, I mean like the format does look completely different, I think, than how it felt, and even things like Quest Rogue are all of a sudden very good, which wasn't even close before. So yeah, I'm optimistic again, and I would actually totally agree with you that this is the best I think I felt about Wild since the Barons. Since that Barons meta, if not a bit before that. So yeah,
I mean, I don't disagree that like this is the highest I've been on the metagame for a while, but like I still just don't know how much I would disagree in that like the Pirate Warrior quest was tuned down all that much. Like I don't think that's having the necessarily the impact that as opposed to maybe like losing Quest Hunter and APM Mage in that those are decks that kind of protected some of other matchups into Pirate Warrior. So I don't know. It's hard for me to maybe separate some of the emotional aspect of getting scammed by Pirate Warrior so many times from like the reality of it, but it just like it doesn't feel different. I think it just maybe has you know some some more challenging matchups being able to come into play now that Ice Block isn't a thing, and that Odd Hunter decimating boards isn't necessarily a thing. So that's where I'm at with it. I think I don't know. We've had this conversation since Pirate Warrior was it has been in its current state, is that like top ranked players overrate its effectiveness, and to an extent I think as you go down the ladder maybe people overestimated its power level. So I think like it probably lies somewhere in between where each of our assessments are, and so you take the average of our opinion, dear listener or viewer, and that's where Pirate Warrior is. I think, like, I don't know. It would be a tough argument for me to say that it's not the best deck in the format right now, but like I play in a slightly different metagame than you guys do as well, so that is a contributing factor.
Yeah, I mean, I would go ahead and say, like, I do think that the Pirate Warrior change wasn't a very drastic nerf. I think we can all kind of agree with that. I think what you were alluding to, and I think what Corbett kind of briefly touched on, was the fact that the changes to the other two decks in Odd Hunter and Ignite Mage have allowed a whole other host of strategies to emerge that do end up being okay into Pirate Warrior. And it maybe just kind of feels like those strategies haven't trickled down to maybe Diamond 5. Like, I don't know how much Mechathune Warlock or Inner Fire Priest or decks like that you're seeing, because those decks tend to have pretty good matchups into Pirate Warrior. So I wonder how much of that might be playing a factor, where like all of these new decks have popped up, they just haven't trickled down to these other ranks yet.
Well, I mean, even as we saw in the last report, like, are those that great of matchups? I think it's just more the illusion of the good matchup is maybe pushing people off of Pirate Warrior, because like we talked about how we assumed that free Shaman was a favorable matchup into Warrior. It ended up not being. I mean, I could see something similar with Mechathune, although I would probably expect the Mechathune Warlock to be better than Shaman, just because of all the healing and board clears are seemingly endless. Like it's hard because of the explosive potential just in the early game. If you ignore the late game Juggernaut spam, like the explosive potential for Pirate Warrior, I fail to see it having just like bad matchups. Like it's never going to have a 70-30 or even a 60-40 really, because it just has the potential to just get you. And so like even its bad matchups aren't going to be oppressively bad for it. So like it can just kind of win in a game. But yeah, I mean, like the open door for Mechathune for even Combo Priest is arguably one of those matchups where Pirate Warrior can't win. So I think that like the decks that are cropping up now that APM Mage and Odd Hunter are gone, like Mechathune Warlock, Combo Priest, maybe feel a little bit less limiting than what Odd Hunter and APM Mage were in terms of like the broader metagame, and so they aren't necessarily covering Pirate Warrior's weaknesses in the same way that those decks were. And so we're kind of moving away from that triad that we were stuck with for quite a while with Odd Hunter, Pirate Warrior, and for a while even Warlock, and then Free Shaman. So it's that moving away from that triumvirate is like already a step in the right direction, because that allows for diversity, which is like, I agree, Meowth is a good thing, is the thing that I enjoy about the wild format, and we haven't had that for a while.
No, I totally agree, and I think with the mini set coming, I think it'll be important to see whether that diversity remains, or maybe they'll take another step towards Pirate Warrior. Who knows? Mini set announcement soon, please, so we can see some of the new cards as well. I think that's what we're getting at here. Okay, so for the rest of the episode, we had some decks that we wanted to talk about today, but we wanted to talk about decks that were kind of not the decks that we keep talking about. So we've all come up with some off-meta stuff that we've been playing and playing against on ladder, and trying it out. And so the first deck that we want to talk about today is this EAo+CA Warlock. And so I know we talked about it last week, we were talking about Mechathune Warlock, and Corby even brought up the point today about how it might be the best deck in the in the format, which is a claim, because I've been playing some of this EAo+CA Warlock this week, and I'm not gonna lie to you, kind of feels better than Mechathune Warlock. And so you brought up the point last week of is EAo+CA maybe a better thing to be doing in that shell than Mechathune? And yeah, like it was really good. Especially against stuff like Shaman, because you now have the two owls, and it's easier to get it into the pool to play around Mutanus, and like the rat devolves, and you don't have to worry about like Lotheb blockouts or Vol'jin getting ratted. So, and the speed is actually a huge factor, like you mentioned. So I just wanted to shine the spotlight a little bit here on this EAo+CA Warlock that's been doing pretty well for me. And honestly, if you claim that Mechathune Warlock is the best deck in the format, I would argue that this is maybe even better than that, which means it might be the best deck.
Oh, Meowth, I'm so happy. You went and did all the testing for me. I just threw the idea out there, and you did all the work. But I did see like Otters, I think, also like hit top 10 legend. Like he did his climb with our Warlock a bit and stuff. So, I mean, like I said last week, it felt like an idea that made sense on paper. It doesn't seem like something that's picked up too widely, but I mean, if people like yourself and others are trying it and kind of putting lists out there, then I'm sure it'll catch on for, a bit of a wider player base as well.
We talked last week about how the lists are nearly identical, and like if it does end up being marginally better into Shaman, or even like significantly better into Shaman, while not losing much else in the matchup spread, because like Ice Block isn't a thing, as we've discussed the past couple of weeks, then maybe it is just better, because like that Shaman matchup can be brutal with the rat devolves, with the potential for Mutanus. So eliminating that certainly makes it maybe a decent argument for that type of build.
Yeah, I just want to quickly walk through this for those of you guys that have not had the pleasure of playing against this in Wild and Standard. So basically, it's very similar to Mechathune, where you're using this big game-ending combo with Phylactery as your backup. But basically, with what you want to do in this deck is you want to take this humongous owl, which is like a death rattle, deal a damage to something, and you get it into your death rattle pool somehow with Plague of Flames, or this list specifically is running stuff like Grimoire of Sacrifice. So you get it into the Raised Dead pool, and then you'll play either a bunch of 1-drops, or you summon the things from Tamsin, or you'll play, what is it called, Wicked Shipment, to summon a bunch of 1/1s. And then you use Tamsin, the 3-mana Tamsin, so you can play double Phylactery. You'll put a bunch of Owl Death Rattles on these 1-drops, and you'll play a Plague of Flames or a Defile, make them all pop, and deal, I think, max damage was like 112 damage as early as like turn 7 or turn 8. So it's a game-ending combo the majority of the time against most decks that aren't playing an Ice Block, which is, you guys have brought up the point. That's why this deck has kind of come into the meta now, is because Ignite Mage is gone, right? So you don't have to worry about Ice Block. But yeah, I mean, this is a deck I highly recommend you guys trying it out, testing it, so we can actually find out if it's better than Mechathune Warlock or not, because I'm going to keep coming back. You surprised me when you said that Mechathune Warlock was your best deck, because that's a statement. And because I think this deck is better than that, which means this low-key might be the best deck in the format that you guys aren't playing. So check it out.
And next up, we have Dead Man's Hand Warriors, another deck that we wanted to talk about. Dead Man's Handball has always been one of my favorite archetypes, and it's definitely was in a pretty brutal position with Ignite Mage and the Odd Hunter stuff kind of going on. Just because, like, again, the whole big thing about Ignite Mage was that the deck was kind of unrattable. Like, it was so hard to disrupt that a lot of the time because of the minion density, and it kind of meant that there wasn't really much that a deck like Dead Man's Hand Warrior could do to kind of stop that. And even like the Odd Hunter damage was a bit too much. But it's kind of a little bit more breathing room. You know, we've kind of talked about that. And it's something that I've revisited. I had some fun with it. I don't think this is going to be a top tier, you know, secret sleeper the way that EAo+CA might be. But, you know, because you are going to still struggle against things like the Mechathan Warlock, just because, again, very hard to rat those kind of decks. But still, like, Dead Man's Hand is something that you can definitely, like, revisit now. Like, if you've taken a couple of expansions off ever since, like, the Demon Seed got printed, you mightn't have wanted to play this. But, yeah, I've had a really good time. So, again, just running through, like, what the deck is. This is a favorite for many people. It's kind of got a little bit of a cult around it, in fact. But the idea is that it's basically just a control warrior that aims to win by shuffling infinite cards into its deck and just dragging the game out towards fatigue. It has a few different win conditions that can do that. Like, you can play Cold Light Oracles to mill the opponent, or you can do things like shuffle in Rakara, which has been huge. Like, the Rakara and the Shattering interaction is kind of crazy. The fact that you get to play like a 0 mana deal 5 to everything on the same turn that you Rakara is kind of nuts. So that buff was huge, I think, and the deck was pretty fun that I had the chance to try a few days ago.
Yeah, I played a version with Rokara before she was buffed, and the interaction with her and Shield Shatter was still very good at that time, just because, like, you know, you're basically reducing the cost even by 5 is pretty good, but to get it for completely free is pretty nutty. You know, I'd like to revisit that myself. I know that there's like been some Enrage versions in the past, but like when I was playing, I've always been partial to the Cold Light Oracle version, and especially right now, I feel like, you know, it's only a matter, like, yeah, you can stack a bunch of armor against Pirate Warrior, but it's only a matter of time before the Juggernaut kind of gets you. So I like having the option to just kind of close out the game, which is what the Cold Light Oracle version does. You know, you do kind of accelerate things by giving them cards, but like, honestly, Pirate Warrior doesn't need to play cards when it's got the Juggernaut down, so that's kind of irrelevant. And then you just burst them down, and yeah, it's fun. You know, I've been a big fan of this for a while. I've had multiple top 50 legend finishes with it in my tryharding days, and it was a fun deck to sort out. But you know, like, I feel like once you do sort it out, it does get, I'm gonna get flamed for this. It becomes linear and does get a little bit repetitive, but it's one that I do always like to revisit.
All right, I do have to ask the question. We've been talking a lot about this Pirate Warrior deck. Can you outvalue Juggernaut with Dead Man's Hand?
Yeah, I was pretty okay at that matchup. There were some times where I got pissed off and I just like slammed down Cold Lights because I was so tired and wanted the game to end. And then they randomly generated a Missile Smite, and that didn't go so great for me. But yeah, I mean, you can do okay. Like, look, Infinite Pirates are pretty good, but like Infinite Rakara also pretty good. So I gotta diverge though. Like, while we have the chance, Ruffle talking about his tryhard days. Can we just go on a little excursion here, Meowth? When you went and did the VS report reread, and we found all these old Ruffle decks and these old like these old top 10 legend finish Big Priest by Ruffle. A lot of your chat didn't know what to make of that.
Yeah. I actually similarly went down memory lane. I went to donkey.top to which, Jesus, that is a unfortunately titled website out of context. Can we maybe get that changed? Because I said that so enthusiastically, and now I regret every part of that. Anyway, I connected my Battle.net account to see my stats, and yeah, there's like this 2-year period where I didn't miss a top 200 with some single-digit numbers in there. So glad not to have to dig that up, because I once made the comment in passing that I had, you know, multiple you know, single-digit legend finishes, and of course, YouTube comments being what they are, said, well, I just don't believe that to be true. And it's like, this is a documented fact. You're arguing against reality right now, but like that's YouTube comments, I guess.
Yeah, I still remember we were bored one day, so we spent like the last little part of our stream going down memory lane, like Corb said, just looking at like what Wild used to be. So we're like looking at the origins of Wild, and like the first big priest list that was ever documented in a VS report was Raffle / Concerned Mom's Big Priest top 10 legend, and everybody was just like, "Wow, Raffle made Big Priest. Raffle played Big Priest," and we're like,
Ruffle invented Big Priest?
"That's what I'm hearing from this." Yeah.
No, I think that you can give credit to Rayned for that one, along with the Zoo Warlock and Hearthstone in general. But like, also, you want to make people really mad. I was one of the OG refiners of Secret Mage as well. That was one of the, I think, probably the first list that was featured in VS of mine that included things like Azure Drake and Firelands Portal, because we did not have better cards at the time. So yeah. I'm sure that if my comments about Dead Man's Hand not like having a linear strategy once you figured out are going to get me flamed, then this absolutely will. So yeah, I guess it's the Flame Raffle episode.
That was the whole point of bringing this up, was Raffle did invent Big Priest. Raffle invented Secret Mage, and Raffle called Dead Man's Hand a super easy deck to play, endearing himself to all the cultists out there.
Now you're putting words in my... That's not what I said at all. It is a very challenging deck to learn. Once you learn it, it's like, I don't know.
I think I heard that exactly right. Am I right, Corb? You heard that too, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Okay, I'll just own it. Sure. Come at me.
All right. Speaking of coming at you, Raffle, do you want to talk about the deck that you wanted to talk about?
Absolutely. Anything to change the subject. So this is the deck that almost snuck me into Legend that I was talking about. It's Big Shaman, and not just any Big Shaman, because we got to add some spice to this. Courtesy of White Delight. It's got your typical Eureka Ancestor's Call. I was actually just editing footage of myself playing it this morning, and in 3 consecutive games, I Ancestors called a Linecracker on turn 2. I Ancestors called a Shutterwalk on turn 1, giving myself a Colossus of the Moon, and some other combo piece on like turn 4. So like Ancestor's Call has the people forget the fact that it is basically like a dirty rat sometimes, and also gives you a big minion. So I feel like there's if it's a dirty rat meta, it's an Ancestor's Call meta. But like the real spice at the top end is actually Hakar the Soulflayer, which would have been phenomenal into APM Mage, first of all, if it ever died, but now is just beautiful into all of the Mecha'thun decks. In particular, Linecracker and Mecha'thun Warlock. So since those are popping up, and if Mecha'thun is arguably the best deck in the format, I think there's a legitimate case to be made for maybe including a card in your deck. You're obviously giving up a lot into aggro, but you still have Scrapyard Colossus at the top end, and Runaway Blackwing as a board clear. But the deck also really benefits from some of the freeze effects like Wind Chill to cycle a card, because the deck's light on card draw and doesn't really do much in the early game. And then also included a Wild Paw Cavern, which I felt like actually overperformed in terms of my expectations, just in making a spider tank every turn that freezes the Pirate Warrior's face, or just like 3 is such an important breakpoint in that matchup that between the Stags and Lightning Storm, it's just well, I've got all of the minions that I need covered right here. One of my favorite moments, though, was actually successfully got Hakar into play. It died, and my opponent, a Druid, played New Malygos, and I did not know what the interaction was, But it definitely killed the opponent, like just on the spot. They had not drawn a single blood. I was raging because like they had 5 cards in their deck, and I'm just like, just draw a blood, just draw one. They play a Malygos and died from about 50 health. So I learned something new about that interaction, and I think my opponent did too, and it was fantastic.
Rolf was just up here straight up spoiling his YouTube video live on podcast.
Well, yeah.
It's not a spoil, it's a teaser, Meowth. Come on.
Exactly.
Get people interested. But yes, I like once you mentioned Big Shaman, I knew where this was going. I've seen enough Akara like popping up in Big Shaman and Big Priest, like like White Delight. Like, come on, what are we doing? But I actually understand it. I mean, I played against it in THL. Like Swag brought it in one of his decks, and I had Mechathan Warlock, and I was just like, what the actual hell am I meant to do with this? I don't understand. How do I beat this? But it is a very, very funny interaction and things like that. And like you said, like Big Shaman did get a ton of stuff. The Wild Pork Cavern, like, God, it's such a good card for the deck, I think, in general. Just having just bodies and just those annoying freeze effects to deal with when you get that minion into play. Just the fact that you have that really nice follow-up is awesome. So yeah, super strong. And Big Shaman definitely something that can kind of come back a little bit now that the like the Odd Hunter and the Ignite Mages are gone, which again were pretty horrific matchups. So yeah, big big improvements for Big Shaman.
Yeah, I haven't played much Big Shaman post balance patch, but I played a ton of it prior to the balance patch. And I was running the new Abominable Lieutenant, the Pudge, 8 mana 3/5 that eats a minion.
Pudge.
Yeah, instead of Runaway Blackwing, but I had basically the same idea, Sans the Hakar, but yeah, I mean, Wildpaw Cavern plus like the buff Lightning Storm, like the buff Lightning Storm in that deck is so nice. That was, I think, one of the best changes that they made when they did that new core set rework for Shaman. But yeah, big fan of Big Shaman. I think low key stuff like Big Shaman and Big Rogue are maybe not being played enough, because Big Rogue I think is worse than Big Shaman, but having the ability to play an 8 or a 9 drop or a 10 drop on turn 2 or 3 is never gonna not be strong. And so like,
I'm curious why you'd wait until turn 2 or 3 with Big Shaman. Just get it on turn 1.
Sometimes you don't draw the Lightning Bloom and you have to like coin out an Ancestor's Call on turn 3. We're not all as good as you, Raffle. Come on.
I mean, just takes practice. We talked about this earlier, like multiple top 10 finishes. That's what it takes.
Yeah, we'll also talk about the fact that you played Q Block without Skull in that VS report. If we want to do that.
Well, so did you, Meowth.
No, shut up.
So
You're not supposed to say that. Shut up.
Wait, hold on. In my defense, we did have Possessed Lackey at the time at 5 mana, so it was like it was a little bit redundant with 4 demon cheats. And I still got a rank 2 legend with it, so it couldn't have been that bad.
Yeah, well, that was the argument that I made as well, so just gonna put that out there. But yeah, I mean, in general, the point of me saying this was that 9 and 10 drops on turn 2 or 3 are never not going to be powerful. So I think stuff like Big Rogue, stuff like Big Shaman, maybe being slept on a little bit. I don't think they're ever going to be like super top tier decks, and I don't really ever want them to be super top tier decks, but like I do think that they'll always have a place in the metagame. And if you're just like, you don't really care about reaching rank 1 legend and you enjoy big giant minions, whatever that copy pasta from the Big Priest article was, like, you should check out these decks. I think they're a lot of fun, if this is something that you enjoy doing.
I all I'm thinking about is that pasta, the big legendary minions one. Oh god, that was one of the best pastas to come out of Wild.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they've ever done a Wild article like that. Maybe because of the pasta that came out of that.
I mean, I wouldn't want to do another article after that.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, let's talk about another super sweet deck though. So this one, I will say, successfully got baited by NHL NJ fan, or Marty, whatever you want to call him. He went, I think, 26-8 to Legend with this Reno. It's Reno Paladin. I don't know if there's any other descriptors. It's big Paladin.
Oh, it's definitely a Reno Paladin.
It is a Reno Paladin of some sort. The goal of this deck is you're dropping an Ozdormu, the Timeless, on turn 4, and then you have 10 mana for the rest of the game. And so the deck is filled with a bunch of super sweet 7, 8, 9, 10 drops. And then you do some pretty powerful stuff because you have way more cards that have way more impact on the board than your opponents do. I will say, Cariel is a pretty busted card. Cariel combined with the power of Zephrys and Reno, got your Reno heals for 60. Like, that is so gross, right? With the Cariel weapon. Yeah, this deck is legit. I do not think it is 26 and 8 to rank 8 legend legit, but I do think that it, I played it. I had a positive win rate playing against people with 11-star bonus, playing against real decks. Is it weird that, like, outside of maybe even Reno Lock, that this is the most competitive Reno deck I have played in like 4 or 5 months?
I mean, I had a nearly identical experience. I played this almost maybe 25 of 30 of the same cards about 3 or 4 weeks ago. That was before the nerfs to those miserable matchups in Odd Hunter and APM Mage, and it's just like the deck finds a way. The whole time I was just like, why am I winning with this deck? What is going on? It just, like, you look at it and it's just a pile of cards. It's got N'Zoth. The list I was running had Varian in it. It has Lockhalar at the top end to come back from the N'Zoth. Like, it's just got all this greed, and you're like, this deck can't possibly win right now, and then it just does. Like, there's even against the Odd Hunter, there's a situation where I'm just like, well, I have 60 health now, so good luck. And the deck just finds a way. It was really shocking, and I really enjoyed playing it. And I think, to your point, Meow, that it plays more like a traditional Reno type deck too. This and I also had a lot of fun, oddly enough, with Reno Cthulhu Druid that actually, like, performed very well as well. And I was just like, both of them just look like a pile of cards that Reno decks often look like, but, like, they find a way to do it. And so it was a lot of fun, both of them. And this one, the Paladin seemed a little bit more successful for me, but, like, it was a lot of fun too.
Yeah, the comparison, was it you, Meow, that said it, or someone else? The LPG Reno Mage. That's the kind of vibe that it gives with all those big threats.
Yeah, it's like, instead of LPG, you have the 4-mana 8/8 Nozdormu that you play it and your deck becomes a tier 1 deck once you do.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I mean, I haven't had a chance to play this, but I have been keeping an eye on it and, like, HS Replay and things like that. And I keep them looking over and I'm like, why is the win rate so high? And I'm like, oh, it must be small sample size. And I check back a week later and I'm like, win rate's still kind of high on this Reno Big Paladin. So I don't know, like, it's a pile, but it's a pile that works. I mean, it really just comes down to Cariel. I think Cariel kind of promotes a lot of this kind of stuff and really opens the door. And I mean, like you said, it's up there with even Reno Warlock is one of the best Reno decks in the format, which I don't know if that says much about Reno decks in general, but it doesn't speak badly about this deck specifically either.
It says all that needs to be said about Reno decks in the format, I think, when you say that this is the second best. All right, no more bashing on my boy Reno. Corb, what else do you got for us?
What else do we have? Oh, of course, we have Hero Power Mage. Who loses the Hero Power Mage? Everybody does, because Hero Power Mage is the nuts. Okay, not really, but it's pretty good, and it might be like the best thing that Mage can do right now, I think. Mage's in a pretty terrible spot. We lost our Apprentice. We have to get rid of our Apprentice decks. What else do? We steal from Standard. That is where Wildfire Mage is a real Hearthstone deck, and you know what? It could be a real Hearthstone deck in Wild as well. There's a whole bunch of 6 synergy stuff that we get in Wild that isn't available in Standard. Either like synergy with the hero power cards directly. We have the spirit that makes, like, the hero power hit adjacent minions. We have things like the Daring Fire Eater, which can be very, very strong. And yeah, it's just like we get we get the Ragnaros for 7 mana. That's another cool thing. So Hero Power Mage has kind of been in this weird spot where it just keeps following the Wildfire, where we wanted it to be an even deck, and then we wanted it to be an odd deck, and turns out maybe it's best to just make it a everything deck. But it got a big boost with the buff to Dawn Grasp, and that's kind of what drove a lot of the interest in it in Standard. Once Dawngrass got buffed to, keep the wildfire effect throughout the game rather than being reset, and that does make a huge difference when it comes to the end game lethality of Hero Power Mage. So, I mean, this deck's like it's honestly pretty solid to aggro. Like that's like its biggest thing right now, because those hero powers and those AOE's that you get off like the Reckless Apprentice are very strong. And it does have a little bit of lethality with the Mordrash and all that kind of stuff. So if you are looking to play Mage, like if it's been a while, not a lot of Mage stuff going on, I definitely give this a look. It's more competitive than you might think, and can definitely handle aggro like pretty decently. Turns out like 3 ice blocks, pretty good.
Yeah. Once again, apparently I was ahead of the curve here and played a very similar list a while back, and like Dawngrass being a 3rd ice block is all they needed to be at times, and like was super powerful in what it did. Yeah, you have like the Book of Specters to draw a bunch of minions, a bunch of other like spell types, even the Wildfire is yeah, sure, it's nice to have, but like really that 7 mana 3rd ice block is just like, sure, give me another turn and upgrade my hero power further in the process, and then just slam that Reckless Apprentice. And like that, like a Reckless Apprentice post Dawngrasp is quite a bit of a lethality in its own, right? Because it's like you get the ping and you get the ping again, basically for 4+ damage per ping, and it's like a DIY Ragnarok shot that you guarantee goes face and also clears the board. So deck performed surprisingly well, at a time where there were lots of flares running around, even for me. So I can imagine that, like in a world without flare, or where flare is much less common, it's still doing all right. But yeah, it's certainly a fun deck to play. And you mentioned Mage is a little bit limited. I'd like to give an honorable mention to Hand Mage, which I revisited this week and was also similarly dunking on some fools with disgusting high rolls, and that actually seems like a reasonable deck for people that want to play Mage as well.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about Hand Mage. I was like really hyped to play it a while back, and it seemed okay, but just not quite good enough. But definitely something that I might try and revisit as well. This looking back at the Hand Mage, sorry, not the Hand Mage, the Hero Power Mage. I had so much trouble today learning about all the interactions. They're all so weird. Like which hero powers, like which cards work with the stealth double adjacent minion thing. Like, are they all getting frozen? Are they all getting hit by like double hero power? I don't know. It was all very confusing for me. I mean, it was fun though. Like it was fun to go exploring and learn about spaghetti code. That was kind of like a big part of the enjoyment I had playing this.
No matter how many times I played the different combinations of those like interactions with the hero power, I was never certain about what was going to happen. So I just played it safe and hoped it worked out well. But like, yeah, I remember a lot of strange interactions. Like Daring Fire Eater is the most obvious one, and that makes the most sense. Everything beyond that, it's just like, well, some of this is doubling, some of this is freezing, some of this is just doing nothing, and I don't know how to predict it.
Yeah, we got to get some spreadsheet gaming with all the interactions so that we can check every time we want to play a combination of cards. Can I also interest you in taking your perfectly refined Hero Power Mage here and ruining it with some yellow cards, but also maintaining 2 Wildfires in your deck?
I'm interested. I mean, we've already seen a pile of Reno deck kind of get some praise today. Why not increase it?
I mean, I will just say, because like again, prior to the patch, I found that Reno Hero Power Mage was like the most successful for me. And again, this isn't like 15 game sample sizes of both decks, but I played Reno Hero Power Mage with double Wildfire, and it popped off. It was really good because similar to the Reno Paladin, just like you're running a bunch of good cards plus Zephyrus and Reno, and you get Kazakis and Relicologist, and you get 4 mana Varden. So I had a lot of fun. It might be worth doing like, double Wildfire, double Reckless Apprentice, because like watching your stream today, Reckless Apprentice is low-key probably the second best card in that deck behind Wildfire. So
busted. It's such a busted card. It's insane.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
It does gross things against Pirate Warrior, and if you have Varden online, it can do really gross things because it like potentially gives you those honorable kills that you need to then further blast the opponent in the face. So yeah, I would agree that it is definitely one of the best cards. I would put it maybe behind Ice Block still, just because Ice Block exists. You mentioned that you only get potentially only one Reckless Apprentice in Reno. I would be concerned about only getting 2 Ice Blocks between the one that you're playing and the Varden copy. So that would be my hesitation. I haven't played it recently, but I had like the opposite experience where I felt like the making it Reno made it a little bit less consistent, just because I wanted the consistent ramp on my hero power is kind of a more focused game plan, but having yellow cards is never a bad thing.
yeah. I mean, I will say that the hero power mage actually looks pretty strong. And I can't tell if that's because the deck itself is strong or because all the other mage decks suck. And I'm not really sure which one it is, but I mean, it is a pretty sweet archetype though.
It's a little bit more cerebral than play null and hit it with a conj and win the game on turn 4. So
Yeah, but Deathwing over Cerebral, Ruffle.
yeah, I know. I actually I consistently was getting Cthuns and Feorses off of mine. Actually, my first, I think my first 2 or 3 Gondr's callings were just nulls. So I would just keep getting the nulls. It really kind of dilutes the pool a little bit, but it's still a surprisingly strong deck, and reasonably good into Pirate Warrior as well, because you just eye roll them and win.
I feel like we've talked about Hero Power Mage now alongside Hand Mage enough that we also now have to include Hand Mage codes down in the description.
I think so. Yeah.
I think we officially have to.
Well, if we're going on that tangent, like the new Shivering Sorceress actually pulls a lot of weight in that, because it's basically like a card that draws a card, because it reduces your Conjurer's Calling, which then offsets the fact that you're -1 card in hand for the null. So it gives you hand space while making your combo a little bit easier. So yeah, that card is actually pretty nutty in the deck. So try it out. It's definitely worth a revisit.
All right. But that being said, that is 6 sweet off-meta decks that we've been playing and playing against here post-patch. And hope you guys can find one of these decks to enjoy playing. I guess I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to say that EAo+CA Warlock is an off-meta deck, because you guys are all going to listen to this. You guys are all going to start playing it, and we're going to see that it's the best deck in the format. So who knows? But the rest of them, I think, definitely off-meta choices.
I mean, if you ask the people that were watching my video, like day 2 or 3 of the expansion, it's always been meta. Like Owl Warlock is broken. Everybody hates that deck in both formats, even when it's not good. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of angry people in the comments for us promoting or even daring to speak of Owl Warlock.
Yeah, people and their reactions to OTK decks, regardless of the format. Am I right? But yeah, I think that's gonna wrap it up for our episode today. Like we mentioned at the very beginning, kind of a shorter episode as we wait for this mini set announcement. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed. And Raffle Corbett, always enjoy hanging out with you guys. Thanks so much for joining me again. Let the people know where they can find you and your content.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RaffleHS, and Twitch and YouTube at Raffle.
And you can find me on all those platforms at Corbett Games. And thank you guys very much for listening / watching.
Yeah, you can find me at GetMeOut on all of those platforms as well. Appreciate all of you guys listening all the way to the end. Really do appreciate y'all. And we will see you guys again next week. Later.